Hi, Bill Snodgrass, and in this video we are going to talk about shooting a track meet. If you're an experienced photographer, we're going to begin by talking about what to expect at a track meet and different composition opportunities, different shots that you're going to want to try to capture, those sorts of things. And then we will wrap up by looking at some camera settings in case you just have no idea what to do with your camera and you have been assigned track meet as your shooting assignment. There is indoor and outdoor track, and they are very similar, but indoor track is much smaller, and you're probably going to find that it is also much more crowded. If you're shooting an indoor event, the crowd considerations become much higher than if you're shooting outdoor track. Besides that, the events are essentially the same, although there's more laps indoor than there is outdoor, and everything is closer together and more condensed, making space much more of a consideration. So outdoor track, if you're told go get everything, go take a picture of everybody, get all of the athletes doing all of their events, that's impossible. One person cannot. I just do not know how you could possibly do that because of the way the track and field is laid out. Simultaneously to the running events, the field events are going on, and that's long jump, high jump, possibly pole vault, discus, and shot put. And so the field events are all going on simultaneous to the running events. And it also is not impossible that an athlete will be in some field events and some running events. And so let's talk about the field events, and we'll get those out of the way, and then we'll jump into the running events. So the field events begins at the beginning of the race. They'll have the announcer, generally a PA announcer, will say something like first call this event, second call this event, last call this event. They'll start the field events first, and they will start simultaneously. So the throwers, they'll do shot put and discus, and then those two will rotate. In collegiate events, there may also be javelin, there may also be hammer toss. In high school event, just shot put and discus. I've never been to a high school event where they had javelin or hammer. The jumping events, the throwing events will all start at the beginning of the race, and then one of the running events will start. So trying to get around to all the throwing events, it makes it impossible to get to some of the running events. If you're going to try to stay at the high jump and get everyone, you're going to miss everyone at the long jump. So you're back and forth, and depending on how the field is set up, you may be going from one end of, and if it's a normal stadium, it's going to be set up at a football field. So you can make the jumpers, high jump may be at one end and long jump at the other. Depends on how the field is set up. You may be going back and forth between all of those places. So planning to get the entire everything in one track meet, that's an impossibility. It's an impossibility. There's your redundancy for the day. So you're gonna have to plan your shots. You're gonna have to plan, I'm gonna get this first flight of high jump, and then I'm gonna go get some throwing, and then I'm gonna bounce back over to high jump or long jump and get a flight there. The jumpers will take turns, the throwers will take turns. So your team, if you're there just to shoot one team, they'll be throw, then the other people will throw, and then someone else will, and it'll just go around. So to just get through your team once may take quite a few minutes at one of the throwing events. The same is true at the jumping events. They take turns jumping. Meanwhile, the running is going on. So while you are going from place to place, thrower to thrower, jumper to jumper, you're also going to have the running events going on. The running events are in a set specific order, and I think it varies depending on the sport affiliation group that the team is in. And so find out what that order is for your event, and then plan accordingly. So in the running events, there are two types of running: individual races, and then there are relays. You're going to want to decide what part of the race do you want to photograph. Do you want to photograph the start finish, which may or may not be in the same place? On the 100-meter dash, it is not. They're literally 100 meters apart. The 400, the start and the finish, are close to the same place. So you could get the start and the finish, and that race is going to last about a minute and a half max. So you have from the time the gun goes off to the time the last finisher finishes, you might have about a minute and a half on that. The 4x400 relay, there's going to be a handoff place, which is also going to move around the track a little bit as the race progresses through the curves and the geometry of the track. That 400-meter leg is not in the same place every time. And so you have to figure out where the handoff is going to be. Some of the most, I guess you would say, quintessential track photographs are going to be that handoff. And so there's a 4x100, a 4x400, and a 4x800 relay. Knowing where those handoff places are and being there ahead of time, being ready to compose that picture as the baton is passed to the next person, that's a good possibility. It's a good strategy. The sprints are the very short, the 200, the 100, and some people consider the 400 a sprint. Those races go very fast, individual, and they're going to start, they're going to finish. Where to be is a matter of what picture you're trying to get. So you probably at this point are saying, wow, you've been saying a lot of things and I have no idea what to do. And that's kind of the feeling I get a lot of times at a track meet. Unless I go in and say, I'm gonna get one round of high jump, then I'm gonna get one round of long jump, and then I'm gonna pick up whatever running event is going on, and then I'm gonna, or you may go in and say, I want to get the first relay, I want to get the hurdles. You need a plan of attack when you go in. So if someone sends you and says, just go take pictures of the track meet, then you probably need to sit down and kind of get something in your mind's eye as to what you want to shoot. What does a good high jump picture look like? Obviously, that moment when they're clearing the bar is kind of a stereotypical high jump moment. Long jump, as they're about to, or when they have just come into the sand pit, that's kind of the long jump moment. Shot put and discus, there's kind of 2 points in the throw that the beginning when they're all bunched up and ready to throw, and then at the end as they're accelerating the projectile, the disc or the ball, that moment as well. Pole vault, going up, going over, and then you'll see a lot of pole vault pictures as they're landing on the mat. Clearing the bar, the moment of clearing the bar, since that is the standard for the event, clearing the bar is kind of like, this is a really good picture for both high jump and for pole vault. The track events, besides the handoff, running doesn't look a lot different, and you can, if you're a connoisseur of track photos, you could probably tell the difference between someone running the 800 and someone in a sprint. To sort of differentiate that, the moment they come out of the starting blocks on the sprints, they're going to be lower and they're going to be at an angle where they're accelerating out of the blocks. That makes a good picture. In sprints, they're going to stay in lanes, and it might be a nice picture to get them from the side as they're going past. You can get the differentiation between the different runners as they're going past. Probably maybe 10 or 20 meters from the starting blocks, they're going to be more bunched up. If you're trying to get that wave of people coming through the lens, it might be a good opportunity to try a slow shutter speed on a tripod and get some blur effect maybe. Finishing the race, getting to the finish line and seeing the runner as they cross through. In the races in our division, they don't actually have a tape usually. They usually are using an electronic timer, and so there's an electronic tape that they break that tape electronically, so that it's not like in the old days when there was actually a finished tape that they would chest through. They will still lean and they will still try to break that electronic tape as quickly as they can. So handoffs on the relays, the starting blocks, and then lastly hurdles. There's 2 hurdle pictures that I find interesting to take. One is from the side as they are clearing the hurdles, and the other is from the end of the track as they're coming towards the camera. If you can shoot that, if you can get a place to shoot that, that would make kind of an interesting picture. Sometimes you can get like the entire flight of runners, and maybe they're all clearing that first or second hurdle very close to simultaneously. Makes an interesting picture. So, a couple other considerations. It is a track and field event. There are lots of things going on simultaneously. The place inside, usually inside the track, they'll call that the infield. And as a photographer, you probably have access to the infield. You may or may not, and you may need to talk to the judges and the coaches and see where they will let you go. If they will let you have access to the infield, then your ability to get places is a lot easier, and your choice for shots are going to be greater. Ask. The worst they can do is say no. If you don't ask and you're not on the infield, but if you do ask, you may be or you may not be. So there is that. Go ask if you can get on the infield. I've not seen a track meet where the judges kept the photographers off of the infield. So, and even for indoor track, being on the infield is a distinct possibility. In some places, it is a necessity, depending on how the field is set up in the field house. So try to get on the infield so that you can have different composition. The shot put and the discus, there is a chance of injury there. So be careful where you stand and be aware. If you're standing between, let's say you're standing between the shot put and the discus range, you need to be doubly aware. You cannot count on the spotters and the judges to save you from a projectile if you're stuck in your camera and you're not paying attention. So pay attention to what's going on around you. Crossing the track. Some of the races go on and on many laps, and you may want to cross the track during a race. Make sure the judges are going to allow you to do that. And start and finishes, don't get in the way of the judges. Just play it, sensibly, and you should be all right. You're going to be moving back and forth a lot. You'll get in a lot of steps on the day that you shoot a track and field event. One more quick thought. Track and field is not just about the running and the racing. It's about the stretching. It's about the cool downs. It's about the after run. They'll rehydrate. There's a lot of pieces to the story that are not between the gun and the finish line. There is a lot of pieces of the story that you will want to tell if you're trying to tell like that whole track and field story. The team warm-ups, the team cool downs, those kinds of things as well. So don't just jump in and think, oh, I'll start to finish. There's more to the story than that. Also, camera angles. If you just stand there and take pictures the whole day, you're gonna get a lot of pictures that look like you stood there and took them. Try different camera angles. Try going to the top of the stands and shoot down. Maybe get a wide angle lens and shoot down. Maybe get down low, literally down to the track level, and get some pictures as runners are coming that way. Try different camera angles just to sort of spice things up. All right, that is your composition option. Now let's talk a little bit about setting your camera up. It is a sport. You're going to want on your sport focus mode. You're going to want on your burst mode probably, because you're going to want to try to get that 2 or 3 shots into as they're throwing that shot put or as they're coming off the starting line. You want to get that burst mode. Focal point. You're going to have to decide where composition-wise that works best. If you're doing a shot putter and you're putting a shot putter on the very edge of the frame, you may want to move your focal point over there. If you're unsure and you don't know what to do, if you're going to shoot a lot of vertical pictures, move your focal point one off center that way. If you're going to shoot a lot of horizontal, maybe one off center that way. So set your focal point to a place. Try to get the focal point on a face if you can. If you're outdoors and you're shooting with a wide aperture, you're going to get a lot of depth of field, especially if you're a fair good distance away. Depth of field is a function of aperture, focal length, and distance to the object. So if the distance to the object is really great, you're going to get more depth of field. What kind of lens should you use? I highly recommend image stabilization lens. Even if you're doing a very high shutter speed, just a minuscule twitch of a few degrees of the lens multiplied over 100 yards is quite a large variation So an image stabilization lens will help out with that, and that would be vibration reduction if you're shooting Nikon. A nice telephoto zoom gives you the opportunity to get, so I'm holding my 7300. This is the lens I'm planning on shooting track this season with. Trying to get those close-ups from far away, trying to get those high jump pictures where they're just clearing the bar, getting nice tight composition on the jumpers. So that is an option. If you are more of a beginner and you're really not ready to jump in at that price point, there are other telephoto lenses, but make sure you get one with image stabilization. Canon recently came out with a new version of the 55-250 that has the STM focus on it, and it has the image stabilization too. It's a less expensive lens, and on a crop sensor camera, it's an EFS. On the crop sensor camera, it's going to give you a good range of telephoto. It's going to do good work for you, and it's probably more affordable than going into the larger EF 7300. Nikon has comparable lenses, and I'm not going to pretend like I can recommend one. So sum it all up, get there, plan to tell the whole story. You're going to be in and out all over the place. Things are going on simultaneously. Plan what you want to take pictures of ahead of time and try to make sure you're at the right place at the right time. Set your camera into whatever you consider sports mode. If you can pull off a manual setting, then do that. Otherwise, set it on a shutter priority and set your shutter speed pretty high because you are capturing action. If it is outdoors and sunny, you'll have plenty of light, so ISO is not that big of a consideration. You'll probably be able to keep your ISO relatively low. Telephoto lens, image stabilization, composition, change it up. That's a lot of information on how to shoot a track meet, but there is a lot going on and you don't want to miss anything. Go out and have a good time shooting this. Hopefully this has been helpful. If it has, please click the like button, sign up for notifications, leave me a comment, question, or suggestion. That is all for this one. Check out my other how to shoot sports tutorials, also other editing tutorials, and also my life lesson videos. I got all kinds of life lesson videos in my life lesson playlist. See you in the next one.